ourselves from the APT team, just so you know who's on from APT. And then again, please feel free to go to the chat and introduce yourselves. My name is Alicia Beyer, and I'm leading this activity. And I am a private sector specialist, and I do a variety of things at APT Associates. So I will welcome my colleague, Sarah, to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Sarah Romarini. I'm on APT's Data and Digital Services team. I'm a digital health specialist, and I'm especially excited for today's presentation and also the applications that we will be receiving on this. Thanks.
Anna, can you hear us? Anna was having some technical challenges, so I'm not sure if she's on, but we'll go to Anastasia. Anastasia, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Alicia. My name is Anastasia Lita. I've been in communication with some of you, so I'm sure you recognize my name. I'll be the grants manager for this activity. I work on the local health system sustainability project with APT, and I'm happy to meet you guys all and answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Great. And Anna Wadsworth, who's on this call but is having some technical issues hearing, is a project manager and is also on LHSS and is also supporting this project. Ah, there she goes. Okay. And I hope you can hear us now. Good. Can you go to the next slide? There we go. Okay, so the overview of our agenda for today is to go over the RFA and then to understand the RFA essentials, the highlights, and the eligibility requirements and criteria. We'll go over in more detail the application template, the evaluation criteria and process, and then we will answer your questions. So I think we have plenty of time, but it shouldn't take that long to get to Q&A. So we all hope you're in the right room. This is the award for the Supply Chain Digital Health Innovation Grant that we are offering in Ghana and in Uganda. And I know we are all really excited to be able to launch this in Ghana and Uganda. We just we're working with the missions in Ghana and Uganda to get approval on this. So the USAID missions are aware of this activity and are very supportive of it and very enthusiastic. So we're excited to hear about your innovations and your applications and look forward to hearing more from you. Next slide. Okay, so overall, the objectives of this grant are really twofold. One is to provide some seed funding to digital innovators to allow you to develop new digital products or platforms or to improve on your existing digital solutions. So oftentimes digital innovators, it's hard to start new ideas as you're trying to sustain a business, and this is an opportunity to do a new and different innovation, if you will. And the second part of that, to complement that seed funding, is to offer technical support in some form that increases your consumer access or demand for family planning products in particular, or services or information. So the funding for this is actually coming from the U.S. government office of the USAID Office of Population Health. And so they have a particular interest in increasing access and or demand for family planning products. And we want to offer some form of technical assistance and technical support. We'll talk about that later. but the type of technical support that's being offered is really up to you to propose. So you need to think about what type of specialization or support you might like, and we can discuss that more later on in the presentation. So it's seed funding and technical assistance. I think the next slide I'm going to hand over to Anastasia to go over some details, and then I will return to talk more about the eligibility criteria. Over to you, Anastasia.
Hi, thank you, Alicia. Before I begin, actually, I'd like to introduce Charisse Bordeaux. She didn't get a chance to introduce herself. She is part of the APT Associates team. She works on LHSS as the Global Grants Manager. Charisse, did you want to introduce yourself real fast?
Thank you, Anastasia. No, that's fine. I'm just here to listen in and answer any questions that you all may have, but thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so I just wanted to highlight that the anticipated outcome of the solicitation is a fixed amount award. We'll get to the RFA attachments later on, but I just also wanted to note, and I'll talk about this later, that attachment F in the RFA is a sample of the fixed amount award. On the attachment, there will be an acknowledgement for you to sign stating that you've read through the sample award and noting if you have any exception that you would like to take to the award, and if so, which exceptions. But yes, we'll get to that in a second. Next slide, please, Anna. So just to go over the basic elements of what an FAA is, fundamentally, a fixed amount award is a type of grant agreement under which the federal awarding agency or pass-through entity provides a specific level of support, usually on a per unit basis, without regard to actual costs incurred. So we generally like to use FAAs when distinct milestones or deliverables can be identified, clearly defined, and priced with reasonable certainty. And then with FAAs, the focus is on a successful completion of milestones or deliverables on which the payment is made. The milestone and deliverable must be clearly defined in the grant agreement, and that includes what documentation is required for payment against that milestone and deliverable. So I guess for an example, a milestone could be a data collection tool, and then the corresponding deliverable could be raw and clean quantitative and qualitative data, and then maybe a report on the analysis of that data. And so all of those elements, whatever they would be in the grant agreement, would be clearly defined in the deliverable table. Next slide, please, Anna. Disbursements in the form of tranches are only made after the submission and acceptance of evidence that that milestone or deliverable has been met and is approved by LHSS. With FAAs, the grantee must manage their own budget. So this is because this award allows for very specific program elements without the requirement of LHSS to monitor actual costs subsequently incurred. And then also APT Associates and/or LHSS is not responsible for any amount exceeding the amount of the grant agreement or incurred outside the grant period as provided in the program. Next slide, Anna. And then the grantee is responsible for monitoring actual costs. Since this is a fixed amount award, the grantee bears the risk of cost overruns and benefits from cost saving efficiencies. This is why the budget and the budget narrative is very important when submitting your application, and it will ensure that all costs are accounted for. And of course, I know I'm going through this fast and we can ask questions at the end. And then finally, I just want to note that the grantee must manage their funds compliantly. Next slide, Anna. So as I mentioned, with the attachment F, the sample fixed amount award, anticipated terms and conditions of any resulting award are included in that sample and are on the grant agreements, deliverable, and milestone payment schedule. So I'd recommend you check that out and sign it as part of your application process. If The applicant is unable to comply or takes exceptions with any of these terms or conditions. You must make it clear in your application which specific terms and conditions and exceptions you want to take, and we will work with you to come up with a solution if possible. Yes, and then Alicia, if you want to go over the rest of the eligibility requirements.
Okay, and I hope people heard that if there's a term or condition that is a challenge to you, we want you to reach out to us and we can see how we can work on that. You want me to go over these? So you cannot be a public or private, a public or a mixed public-private entity to be eligible. You have to be a fully private entity. You must be legally operating in Ghana or Uganda, which means you have registration in one of those countries. It also means that you can be headquartered in a different country, but you must be registered and operating in Ghana or Uganda. You must provide evidence of financial accountability to the extent possible. And maintain strict and detailed records of all your expenses and have designated individuals responsible for the financial management. And you must be in good standing with the civil and fiscal authorities in your respective countries that you're operating in. So that's the those eligibility requirements. Next slide. The award is up to a maximum of 60,000 USD per grant, with the aim to award at least one grant per country. And obviously you can propose something at any price range, but not to exceed 60,000 USD. You will be submitting in your local currency. So I guess you can use your the general exchange rate. Actual amount depends on the financial application submitted by the applicant and may be lower than the amount cited here. So we have we have the ability, if you propose something for 60, to consider a smaller amount in discussion with you. And the anticipated end date is April 19th, contingent on USAID approval. So I think an earlier version had an earlier end date. So please note that there's a bit more time to be able to provide you TA and that seed funding. Next slide. Anastasia?
Yeah, no problem. I just wanted to go over some quick dates. As you know, today is the briefing, which is August 7th. And then we have closed the deadline for questions. So we will not be taking any more questions, but we will be taking questions on this call. But after the call, I can't answer anymore, but we will be posting this recording on the LHSS website where the solicitation is posted, as well as all the questions and answers that have been that I've taken already from all the applicants, just so everyone can review them in case you have the same question. And then final applications are due to me. My email address is there below on the 21st of August at no later than 6 p.m. local time. All applications must be in English, no more than 10 pages, please. And that's excluding attachments and any additional requirement documentation and pages of certification. And then please limit the attachments to not larger than 10 MB, because that's all that our servers allow us to receive via email. Next slide, Anna. So then, as I mentioned, the other required documentation, all the attachments and documentations listed here are what is required in your application. Make sure you include all of these, because we'd hate to have to deem your organization ineligible for not including all of your required documentation. I'll go over the specific attachments in a second, but I also wanted just to note and explain some of the other required documentation. So you please, if you're going to have a award over 25,000 K, you need to have a UEI number, but if it's below, just based off of what you're presenting in your application, you will not need a UEI. When you register for, or when you go to sam.gov, which is where you will obtain your UEI number, you do not need to register. You can get a UEI without registering with sam.gov. And then in the RFA, there should be a link with some directions and help steps. You will need to provide a copy of your valid legal registration, a copy of your audited financial statements from the past 3 years. If your organization has not been around for the last 3 years, then just as many years as your organization has been functioning. You need to provide CVs for all personnel, and then a copy of your tax verification certificate. And then, like I mentioned, I'll go over the attachments in a moment. Next slide, Anna. So here are the attachments: your application template, your detailed budget template, the implementation plan, required certifications and assurances, your self-assessment form, and then the sample fixed award acknowledgement and award. So next slide, Anna. So for the application assessment, Alicia in a few moments will go over section 2, which is the technical approach and the program description. But please note that there's maximum page allowances for each section, with a maximum total of 10 pages. The section V cost, or section 5, it doesn't have any page allowances that won't count towards your total amount. Next slide, please. So here is just a screenshot of what the application itself looks like. If you haven't seen it or looked through the RFA yet, this is what it looks like if you're looking for it. Each section has questions and prompts that will guide your responses. And again, at the header, it kind of shows you as a reminder how many pages are allowed for each section. Next slide, please. And then for your detailed budget, which is attachment B, here's another screenshot of what it looks like. As I mentioned before with the budget narrative, please be sure to complete section or column K with the narrative of each line. All grant activity costs must be in local currency and within the normal operating practices of your organization and in accordance with any written policies and procedures. You also must propose costs that are realistic and reasonable for the work in accordance with your technical approach. And then please be sure that you submit your budget in this specific template and not your own. And as I mentioned, please be sure to use local currency. Next slide, Anna. And then here are just some points that I've hit on already just to really drive home. You must use our specific template. Please don't tamper with the formulas, as it might, cause cascading effects. Don't delete any categories. If they're not applicable, just put NA, and make sure you fill out column K, because if not, we may be asking you what that line is for, just for clarification. Next slide, please. Ineligible expenses. So LHSS grant funding may not be utilized for any of these points on this slide. I don't want to go, for time's sake, I don't want to go through each one, but this is on page 14 of your RFA. And I just wanted to highlight these to you. Also, all procurements for goods and services must comply with 22 CFR 228 rules on source and nationality for commodities and services financed by USAID. Ineligible and restricted goods are those defined in the mandatory provision for U.S. non-governmental grantees entitled USAID Eligibility Rules for Procurement of Goods and Services, and for non-U.S. non-governmental grantees entitled USAID Eligibility Rules for Procurement of Commodities and Services. This standard provision and 22 CFR 228 can be made available to you upon request and will be incorporated as applicable into your grant agreement.
Anastasia, you went on to mute.
Sorry. I don't know how that happened. Sorry. I just wanted to also note that no grant funds may be used for any purchases of activities unnecessary to accomplish grant purposes as determined by LHSS. And as I mentioned, if you want a copy of the provision, we can provide you with that. Next slide, please. This is for you to go over, Alicia. Thank you.
Great. Okay. So before I go over the technical stuff, the evaluation criteria, I just want to reiterate what Anastasia said. I know that there are a lot of requirements on the operational side, and we hope that you ask any question today and that we help you. We don't want that to be a hurdle that you can't overcome. A lot of them are just the standard USG requirements, but we're happy to answer any questions and support you through that process as much as we can. Okay, so now we have these evaluation criteria. This is how we're going to evaluate that first section, your application, that is 10 pages. Please note, you don't have to have 10 pages. As long as you tell us everything you'd like us to know, it can be less than 10. There are, I think, about 5 evaluation criteria. There's one that's technical approach, that's 45 points. If you could go to the next slide for a second, and then we'll go back to technical. So then there's organizational capabilities, cost effectiveness, GESI, which is gender, equity and social inclusion considerations, and strategic fit. And each one has a certain number of points. You can go back to the previous slide. So, sorry, the previous slide. Sorry, we're going back to the technical. Oops. And now we lost the deck.
Anna, let me know if you want me to share my screen and I can project.
There we go. Okay. So again, there's 5 different evaluation criteria. The first one is your technical approach. And what we would like to see is that you can articulate a clearly defined problem statement. The problem statement should include consumer challenges to ensuring access to family planning and supplies and other commodities, and demonstrate an understanding of the root causes of the supply problem. So this is coming from the supply chain office at USAID, and they're interested in supply chain problems and how your digital innovation firm might solve that problem. So you need to clearly articulate and state that problem. And your problem statement should also demonstrate that you have an understanding of the local context. The proposed solution should address this is sort of a hint on the problem statement. Are you addressing equity? Are you addressing access, quality of products, efficiency, or sustainability of the family planning supply chain? It could be a mixture of those. So articulate your problem clearly. The solution should be innovative and can be a new product or in addition to existing digital products or processes. And the solution can include a design solutioning process in order to prototype and design innovation solutions. So those of you who are familiar with design thinking processes, your solution can say, we're going to design we're going to take this problem and unpack it with technical assistance and then come up with solutions. So The applicant should clearly state if their solution is a business to business or a business to consumer or both, meaning where along the supply chain are you providing support? So are you, is your solution working between pharmacy and consumer? Is it working between wholesaler and pharmacy? Is it working farther up the value chain? Where are you working? The proposed solution should demonstrate a clear and practical relationship between the defined problem and root causes and the solution proposed. I think that one's clear. The TA should be innovative, transformative, and sustainable. Give us something interesting that you want to do. That you hope will be transformative. The proposed plan must be realistic and demonstrate the organization's progress towards self-sufficiency. So we don't want you to propose something that might undermine your, the foundation of your business sustainability. We want something that will increase your sustainability over time and even your profitability. The applicants should clearly outline the impact of the proposed solution on family planning commodity markets and the market potential of the solution. So, the solution by April 2024, the solution does not need to be profitable in and of itself. We realize that these things take time. But you need to be able to demonstrate that, in 2 years, or speak to the idea that in 2 years or 4 years, or however long it might take, you believe that this will increase equity or access and sustainability of the family planning market. So what would your future business look like? So what will be the long-term impact of the proposed solution on those family planning markets? Again, this is a supply chain project and a family planning project. So your solution can have an impact on commodities in general. I know that many of you work across the, commodity market. You're not necessarily in only a family planning market. So you can have a solution that is addressing commodities in general, and but should have at least an emphasis on family planning commodities, or at least consideration of the impact of the family planning market. Okay, the applicant should provide a clear explanation of the necessary enabling environment, including any financial and regulation that may need to be addressed. So this may not be as relevant to your proposed solution, but take some time to think about, what is the enabling environment that may hinder or help this solution to move forward, and mention that in your technical approach, regardless of whether it impacts or not. You can have a solution that is addressing a regulatory constraint or a fiscal constraint. That is perfectly okay as well. And you can also have more than one challenge that you want to address. And the applicant should articulate the type of technical assistance to support the proposed solution. So give us an understanding of the type of TA do you want. Do you want design thinkers? Do you want IT specialists? Do you want someone who's in financing? Do you want a combination of those things? What type of TA would you like us to support? So before we go to the next slide, just to give you an example, we worked with a digital innovator a couple of years ago on a design thinking process. So we worked with them to go through a design thinking process, and we did some consumer segmentation, some consumer research, and some consumer journey mapping to understand the family planning market. And then we designed solutions, and it was actually a package of different solutions to get more family planning consumers onto the platform. And in addition, that innovator also designed a new module on their in a new product, essentially, that was a product that linked wholesalers to pharmacies. So it was both business to business and business to consumer. It utilized technical assistance. It addressed family planning markets. It addressed supply chain. It had the potential to increase the sustainability of their business. So that is an example of the type of problem that we're trying to solve with you. So that's your technical approach. Most of this is really in that technical approach. Next slide, please. Okay, so the 4 other considerations. One is your organizational capacity. So, do you have the relevant staff to provide this work, including experience in digital health supply chain? Do you have experience in Ghana or Uganda, assuming all of you do? Do you have soundness of accounting and procurement practices and capacity to adhere to USAID financial guidelines? Cost effectiveness. Is the proposed budget reasonable and cost effective? Does the application minimize administrative costs for managing the grant in order to maximize the available funds for field-based interventions? And just to be clear, when we say field-based, we're not talking, you can have an intervention that is, in the last mile, really working maybe at a health facility level or at a pharmacy level. But if you are innovating at your head office in Accra or Kampala, that's also fine. We don't necessarily mean field-based at the last mile. So that's cost effectiveness. We want to see the money is going to the work that needs to be done. The 4th is GESI. So GESI is gender equity and social inclusion considerations. These are considerations. They're not requirements, but a consideration is that the organization be majority owned by local citizens. Local staff comprise at least 80% of the office personnel. The applicant is considered a woman-owned business. Again, that's not a requirement. It's a nice to have. It's not a required to have. The proposed solutions to advance women's empowerment and provide opportunities for women's participation and involvement. Again, this is for family planning, so you can think of different ways to involve women either in a design process or empower women within your own team. And it proposes gender or social inclusion considerations that are unique to the applicant's application. And the last is strategic fit. I can't even see how many maximum points are there because I don't know if everyone's getting that that icon with the camera. So we're sorry if you're seeing that. We are. The firm has a viable, sustainable business and has successfully launched promising digital platforms. So you have to be already in this business, but they've not yet realized scale or maybe limited in reaching consumers, particularly reaching women of reproductive age with family planning commodities. So we're looking for firms or companies that you already have something on the ground that you're working on, but you need that leverage of that seed funding and technical assistance to take your company or a component of your work to a new level. And that component should really address family planning commodities. Okay, I think that is it for those evaluation criteria. Next slide, please. I think we're soon going to allow you to ask some questions, but first we're going to go over some frequently asked questions. Anastasia, are you doing this slide?
Yeah, sure. I just wanted to I posted these and then some more. These are the more general questions, and I posted, or I will be posting on the site these in addition to some other like more specific questions that were asked. But these are some good questions that came up that I thought we could go over. We got a question if it was specific to any district in Uganda, and I just want to note that you can apply for any district as long as your organization is legally operating in Uganda or Ghana, and you must present registration documents. We received a question on what is the grant solicitation award maximum. As we mentioned, the award is $60,000 USD, but it will be in local currency, the max amount or the total amount. And then also the total grant amount will depend on your financial application submitted, and it may be lower than 60K. And then if I received a question, is there a standard format for the proposal write-up? And yes, as I went through, the application template is in the RFA, and it has all the other pieces that must be submitted. And then I received a question about should they use local currency in the budget, and does that apply to both the budget and also the milestone and deliverable payment schedule table? And then the answer is yes, please use local currency in your budget template submission, as well as please use local currency in your deliverable table payment schedule, because that's how the payment will be given. And then finally, will the product developed using the grant be property of USAID? I just want to note that anything that is created or developed under grant funding, ultimate ownership will rest with the grantee. Thank you.
Can I add
go
that?
ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so that is correct. Anything that the grantees create, they have you have ownership and property of it. USA does retain the right to access, utilize, and share that information and data or items. And so this is detailed in the standard provisions, which there's a link to it in the grant agreement. So if you want to have just read a little bit more detail on what that entails, you can refer to that section, or you can send Anastasia a question. She can send the provision directly to you.
Thanks, Sharice. And we can take more specific questions on these, but also, Anna, if you go to the next slide, we will now open the presentation to questions from all of you. Thank you. I see we had a hand raised. You can go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, thank you, presenters. I just wanted to know if this LHSS grant can also be used to buy equipment like maybe computers, motorcycles, cameras, recorders, and other things under this grant, because I see it is not stated in the FRP. Thank you.
Sharice, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I can take that one. So yeah, you can purchase as long as it's not a restricted equipment. Some medical equipment is restricted, vehicles are restricted and require additional approvals. So as long as it's not restricted, you can purchase equipment like laptops and things like that. But you want to make sure that it is, of course, necessary to pursue the activities that you're proposing, that it's relevant and it's cost effective, because that is one of the evaluation criteria. So as long as it's justifiable, that is an allowable purchase. And I see there's, I don't know if you want to, Anastasia, you wanted to read some of these comments. There was another question in the comment box. Is column K on note sufficient for the budget narrative?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes. Yeah, we received a question. Is column K sufficient for the budget narrative and no need to submit a document budget narrative? Yes, you can just provide in the column. It doesn't have to be a significant, like write up, but just kind of, a narrative to go along with what that line item is for. And you can just do it directly in the Excel document. And then question 2, can one edit the budget template provided, especially under the section, the section salaries, adding LOE column? Let me just.
You want me to answer that? Yeah, so you don't need to add an LOE column. It does have the number of days there. So, if you should be able to put like your level of effort, which would be your number of days under salary. So if you look at it, there's days and then there's cost, and then it will total that amount. So were you looking for something else when I think this was Luis, or you looking for something else other than just LOE, like number of days?
Anna, can you go back to slide 16 so we could see what it looks like?
Yeah, there you go. So you have the days, there, and you should be able to put the rate, their daily rate, number of days, and then that will give you your cost and LOE. Let me know if that doesn't answer your question.
We also received another question asking where to access the meeting recording, as well as questions and answers after the meeting. This will be posted by the end of day to the LHSS link that the RFA template and all the documents are posted on. So if you don't see them by today or tomorrow, let me know. I'll make sure it's posted up there for you. Thank you.
And can we just put the link in the chat?
Oh yeah, I can put the link in the chat. And yes, we can post the presentation, the slide deck. We can post that as well.
If we didn't have any other questions, I did want to
highlight that. I still have one. Yeah, I still have one. I know the deadline for this is on the what? Is on the 21st of this month. So when should we expect feedback? After the submission on the 21st, whether we have gotten or whether we have not progressed to the next phase. Thank you. Over to you.
Hi, you should receive feedback within 3 weeks, I would say, maybe a little longer, just depending on how long. We have a timeline, but it could get extended depending on how many applications we receive and how long it takes for the evaluation committee to go through them. But it should be no later than 3 weeks, and I can if it gets extended extensively, then I will reach out and let you know that we're still reviewing applications, if that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, let's say approximately 3 to 5 weeks, but this is not something where you're not going to hear for months and months. This will move quite quickly.
Yes, I saw there's a question about the template, how it shows 2 years. What's the project expiration date? As we mentioned, this is a standard template, so some activities go beyond 1 year. This activity, though, will be ending right now, April 19th, 2024, and that is contingent on how long it takes for USAID to approve the grant. If they take a significant amount of time, which we're not expecting at all, but just in case, it will be pushed back in accordance with that. Thank you.
And I should state also that I think that our intention here and our learning from doing these in the past is that this is a short and intensive infusion of seed funding and TA. It's meant to be a short burst of activity for you and for us. And so I think, this goes until April. So we'll, once we award it, we'll move quickly together to decide, to talk with you further on the kind of TA that you need and to make the award. And it's not, a long 1 year sort of activity, or certainly not 2. Somebody asked on the clarity of the number of grants available in country. It's really dependent, and we'll look at the applications that we receive. Again, we can award up to 60,000. What is the estimated date of start to implement? To implementation, I don't have our timeline pulled up, Anna. I don't know if you or Anna want to.
I can answer this. As I mentioned, this might be contingent on how long it takes to go through evaluations, and that might be extended. But currently, we're anticipating start date to be around the end of September. So September 30th, maybe October 1st is right now what we have planned.
Right. And so we're looking at, about 5 to 7 months of activity. So it's not even, somebody's asked here, how many years will the grant last? It's about 5 to 7 months of activity. So it's really, again, a short burst and an infusion of technical assistance and seed funding.
One thing I did want to highlight just really quickly that I think is really helpful. So Alicia went over the criteria of what they're looking for when they're looking at the proposed activities that you highlighted. But in the annex that Anastasia had mentioned, there's a template and it has very specific detailed questions. So if you go through those questions carefully, you should be addressing these points. And so just really, we don't accept any type of proposals, like write-up proposals outside of this template. So there's an application in Annex A, and that's what you'll be using to articulate your activities, to propose your activities. And again, it has very specific questions outlined there that guide you through that, which is really, really helpful.
Any other questions or points of clarification from folks? Okay, speak now or forever hold your peace. We want to thank everyone for your time on this call.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, sorry. I was trying to type a question.
No
but I
problem.
may ask so I don't have to forever hold my peace. This is Mustafa. I wanted to find out as we look into the problem, are we looking at both private market and public supply chain? Because
That's a great
as you understand,
question.
most of the family planning commodities are supplied through the public, logistical supply chain.
Yeah, that's a great question. Your solution can be either or both.
Okay.
So as long as it's increasing access to family planning, certainly if your institution is working closely with the public sector or solves a public sector problem, that's fine, or private sector as well.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Is there a possibility of extension after the 5 to 7 months you have talked of?
Unfortunately, let us say there may be, it depends on it depends on a lot of things, but I will say that the firm that we've worked with in the past, we continue to have a relationship with, and we continue to link with, part of this is to be a connector between you and development partners, and sort of to elevate the work that you're doing in the field. So I think it's a great opportunity for exposure of the firms that win this award. And the relationship, I think, may certainly continues informally, if not formally. But we really can't say if it will, continue on or how long it will. Others? Okay, well, just to say that, we all really look forward to reading your applications. USAID is also very interested in this, and we're really excited to learn more about you and your needs and your aspirations to improve commodity supplies. And we look forward to hearing from you, and thank you very much for your time this afternoon or this evening, wherever you may be. And Anastasia, anything else from you?
No, thank you. I just wanted to reiterate that the window for taking questions is closed, so I will not be able to answer any more questions, but we will be uploading this recording as well as the slide deck and all the other questions I've received thus far. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Oh, wait, sorry. Does budget allow allocation? Oops, I didn't read that. Does budget allow allocation towards marketing? Yes, it does. You can definitely do that. I don't want to hang up in case anyone has that last minute hanging question.
Yes, we'll
Should
be
you
sharing
share
the
his-
presentation.
Yeah.
Oh, should you share? Yeah, I think you're asking if I'm going to share the presentation. I will be sharing this. Thank you.
It will be on this link that you
Yeah.
shared a bit ago, Anna. Yeah. So if
Yeah.
you all see where Anna shared a link, if you give us probably to COB today, you'll find the presentation on there. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your time, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.